this is it essentially.
Just another several
Yeah.
billion years.
No.
Okay.
Okay. My.
Aren't we looking at the fundamental line?
Let him finish, everybody. He's coming to
What
the
could
end.
have created it?
It's really
Well,
beautiful.
that's a really good
That's a
question.
big question.
That's
Any
a huge question.
ideas on that?
What's the question?
What
Well,
could have created the Big Bang?
Okay. What?
Can we let him get through and then
Let
we
him
bang?
finish what he can tell us.
Yeah, no, he was just going into that.
Yeah, take it away, Carl.
Okay. So the universes seem to be expanding. That indicated a beginning. The beginning that was sort of indicated wasn't first seen. It wasn't seen until the mid-60s. Then we found this microwave background. We sent up an explorer called Kobe, which observed these slight variations, Easter egg colored here, that were mapped, and that became a better map with the Wilkinson anisotropy probe, as you see here. But Kobe, which preceded this, and John Mather has the Nobel Prize for that, that effectively proved that glow was essentially the afterglow of the Big Bang. So in other words, saying the Big Bang happened. Now, what is indicated by the expansion of the universe is that the universe at one point was much hotter and much denser. The expansion of the galaxies flying away from one another as we are flying away from everybody else, and everything else is flying away from us like a giant sponge. It's not like some explosion where the galaxies are fired off from one another. It's that space itself is expanding. Space is expanding. It's carrying us with it. And what fights against that is locally is gravity. So locally, if you have enough mass, things collapse into stars and planets. Us, we're sitting here on this ball, we're sitting here on this building, and if we went over that balcony, we would fall to our death. But, so gravity locally counteracts that. But overall, the universe is still expanding. Okay, fine. Indicating that in the beginning, everything was hot and dense. So hot and dense, so hot and dense, that after this initial beginning of history, that for about 300,000 years, it was so hot and dense, it was like the inside of a star. And in fact, we can observe the global overall distribution of hydrogen versus helium. And the universe globally has 3/4 hydrogen and 1/4 helium. That helium is primordial helium that was fused before the universe cooled down. It was like a star. And that for about 300,000 years, while the universe is expanding, it was still so dense, it was a plasma, which means that light could not travel out of it. This is where I'm not sure how these experiments at CERN get beyond this. But at about 300,000 years, space effectively cleared off. It was suddenly low enough density that space became black. Photons were released. What happens in the sun, you can't see through the sun because photons are scattered. They're absorbed by electrons, and the electrons have an energy state, and then they jump back down, release the photon. The photon goes from electron to electron, and a plasma is not, a plasma is the fourth state of matter. It's essentially, it's not a gas. It's a superheated gas, essentially, to where the proton, protons, which are the helium nucleus, and the electrons, they're just in this sea all over the place. And so the photons bounce around. So it's opaque. You cannot see through it. So the universe was this hot, heated, dense stuff. Now remember, we're in the middle of this thing, and that could be anywhere. This is just our observation. That's why we see these fans reaching out. But the sun is 8 minutes in the past. Neptune is 4 hours in the past when we look at it. Alpha Centauri is 4 light years in the past. The center of our galaxy, 25,000 years in the past. Andromeda, 2 million years in the past. The Virgo cluster is 50 million years in the past. The farther out we look, the further back in time we see. And we see a younger and younger universe to where finally, all around us is the shell of a glowing afterbirth of the universe. And I ask you now to move your point of view to one of these quasars out here. You might be a mature galaxy and you'd see us as an ancient, you'd see us as a baby picture. We see these are baby pictures out here of galaxies out here. Okay? So we see, and you would see a sphere around you. You'd see farther than we can see in one direction, but we see farther than you. The universe, we think, may be infinite. This is just our picture of it, and we will fill it in better with better surveys, but we cannot see beyond this. This is basically our view of the universe, our visible universe. That's what we mapped, and this is the stage upon which we do our productions for our space shows. But what you're witnessing tonight is this interactive ability to walk through this and beautifully, I think, take your questions. And with all deference to 2012, because maybe we're all next year, I don't know. and that I'm a dummy about like the radiation fields or where the edge of the galaxy magnetic field is or what have you, but I just don't see any science in it. Whatever is just the ability to walk through at least this charted atlas and where we are to go from basically us all the way on out. And so that's what this is about, and so that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. And this is what
This is incredible stuff.
And this is what we want to share as a perspective for kids all around the world in classrooms all around the world. So this is what I do with the Cambodians.
Carter, what is
Yeah.
a white hole? You have a black hole.
Oh, thank you. A white hole. Well, actually,
Are there any white holes that we know of within
well,
this universe?
people used to think that the white holes may
Like
be.
a wormhole?
Well, the notion was that a white hole might be one of these quasars, but actually now we think, and this is something that Hawking touches on,
Yeah.
but I think it's really up for grabs. Who knows? But black holes, physics collapses,
Yeah.
and it's strange that the physics that we see in a black hole oddly resembles maybe what we see at the beginning of a universe. Could black holes, which are a naturally formed aspect of matter collapsing in this universe, be a gateway to a whole new universe?
Through a wormhole?
That's very Hindu.
Through a wormhole? Through a wormhole?
Not through.
And what do you think?
No, Harold. All I'm saying is the state of matter itself in a black hole may actually be another universe. We don't know.
What do you think of string theory?
When you were talking, I
And,
thought of that. When you said it was so dense, our universe, when it was a plasma gas or whatever, that even light couldn't come out of.
Yeah. Well,
That's
light.
like a black hole.
Well, yeah. In that sense, light is scattered, but it's yes, in a way. I mean, but there is no outside the outside. So the universe wasn't some ball sitting here. The whole universe itself was opaque. I know it's hard to imagine.
Our human brain, it's not seem capable to have that concept of limitless space. Like, how could you even think of that?
Well, that's correct. And as a child, lay in bed, kind of, freaked out about the whole thing. 'Cause, it's just like infinity. I mean, I think we all wrestle with that.
We still do. There was only one Big Bang. Maybe there were many.
Well, we don't know. We really don't know, because that universe image you just saw is sort of our limitation.
Carter,
Yeah.
the mathematics of string theory, Brian Greene.
Yes, and I don't know enough about it.
Parallel universes.
All I know is that the string theory notion
Yeah.
is based in mathematics and is too small to measure. So that's you're getting into almost religious grounds of
It
faith.
also could be a thing whether we're
Faith in
clo-
mathematics.
It also could be interesting if we are a closed or an open system in terms of
Well,
thermodynamics.
according to the
Yeah, and I
Not clear way.
and at that point I'm a little bit beyond my ken. So I wish I could say more on that.
I don't know how how the hell you
Relative
get all
to-
this Ken into your head, brother? This is really incredible.
Relative
Well,
to-
it's just astronomy, but you know,
No, I mean, with the
Handling a
technology,
universe of
it's
questions.
just
Yeah.
mind-blowing.
I have
Yeah.
one thing. This idea of the universe
Mhm.
constantly expanding,
Mhm.
it makes me think that we're not changing relevant to it, which means we are expanding all our different spaces, our neurons, our parts, our blood system, everything
Yeah.
in its spatial relationship is expanding also in coordination with the rest of the universe.
No,
Mhm.
What do you think of that?
well,
The
it's
gravity,
okay.
the point that he made before.
Yeah, see, grav.
Keeps us
Yeah.
as.
I want to hear what Potter has to say.
Well, gravity counteracts it in a sort of on a local scale, and so that you can have compression, and that you know I can push against a table, and those are electrostatic forces that there are sort of absolute forces in that. So I think in that sense there's God, I wish I could answer this better. And I know that physicists that I know what you're saying is that if the whole thing's expanding, then how do you measure that? Because we're measuring relatives, so relative versus absolute. But that locally gravity counteracts that
Counteracts,
expansion.
You say, but to me that doesn't totally negate that some expansion could be happening. It's counteractive, but it's not necessarily
Well,
100% holding.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just that local counteraction is what builds structure, is what we see. But
Right, opposing forces.
yes, and so I don't think that could be negated, but that then on the larger scale, if you're adding that in as well, the universe is expanding. We're actually, I didn't touch on dark energy, but what we're actually seeing by observing those quasars, and not just quasars, but we're looking at certain standard candles. This is when stars blow up and types of supernova, is that we see that the universe seems to be expanding again, and we will continue to expand at an ever-increasing rate to where there is no capability for gas to even collapse anymore on a local gravitational scale. And so that we will essentially, the universe will have what they call heat death, or it just sort of, it freezes out. It expands. Heat death.
Death.
Yeah, death. So there's no more heat being created. And so it's a good question. It's almost a philosophical. It's sort of like the Brian Greene near philosophical questions.
But a lot of it's based on the theory that there's nothing faster than the speed of light. Could you get into more?
And that's the propagation of the forces. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Thanks.
You were talking about dark energy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let there be light.
Thanks. Yeah. The dark energy is just a description of what we see, which is that we thought gravity was going to slow everything down, but in fact we're seeing the opposite. It's observing to be speeding up faster and faster. Sure.
Dark energy relates to that.
Yeah.
Where can I download? You said I can download that thing?
No, you can't.
No, not this. You said the Google stuff.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you want to hold, sit here and take a few questions.
Okay. Sure.
Because you're here.
Yeah.
And you're
Okay.
Take a few more questions.
Yeah.
Brother,
Yeah.
personal case,
Here,
I was profoundly affected by your lecture tonight. I'll tell you why. Intelligent design, a big argument about intelligent
Yes.
design. I finally come to the conclusion that it's total bullshit. You want to know why?
Why?
No one intelligence can do this whole thing.
Nobody.
No one intelligence, not even an imp, not even What do they call God is
Bennett, let him
infinite.
sit there, okay?
Okay.
No one intelligence.
Uh-huh.
Okay, everybody.
Well, I would agree.
No, I don't know about that, don't stop.
It's too complicated for any kind of intelligence.
Yeah.
What's going on in our galaxy in the middle to make it so bright?
Well, there are a lot of stars. That's why it's bright.
That would give a
Thanks.
little more attention to those who can do it. Those
Okay.
who have to read, it's really interesting. What a beautiful thing. Hello, Emmart.
Oh.
Okay. Now, Carter, I've got some questions. How you're in the way. Carter, well, here, thank you, Carter, enormously for that.
Thank you.
This
For putting up with all the intermittent questions, too.
Okay.
Now we
Well, I
big question.
no, I
No, I'm not gonna
I
ask
wish I
questions.
could
I'm just
answer
gonna say,
a lot of.
Let's take advantage of those who can do. He's really an incredible source. Thank you very much for that. That was really
Thank you.
beautiful and interesting. Yeah. You project that up on the planetarium. How
We
does
do.
it happen? What difference is you're projecting this, on a wall, but when you do it on the planetarium, what happens? How does that happen that it becomes planetarium-like?
Well, it has its source in that the planetarium has been a metaphor for sky. And that, of course, we perceive the sky over our head, especially if you go out on the ocean or go out into Kansas and look up from the
Or if you
cornfield.
walk through life, this is the way you perceive things,
That's right, but
Yeah.
the sky has always seemed like a giant bowl over our head.
Yeah.
So to repurpose that three-dimensionally and be able to sort of move through this 3D data set is that, of course, what you saw tonight, you had the sense of 3D because of motion. In a similar way, using that rotational aspect, but pulling away from our object of relevance, which is us, our planet, our solar system, our galaxy, is that we can perceive the objects at ever-increasing scale around us, and so we can perceive the distribution of them, and in that you then confront the stories of, like, and there are very good questions. Where are the galaxies? What are those objects? Where is the shock wave? Where's the background?
Well, that's all astronomy. What I'm trying to get at, if I could, I can't quite understand. If you're going to make a thing that's a planetarium, you got six, like we make video, we make film, and we have a certain thing we can see in this direction, that way, and then if we have one over that way, we'd have that way, that way, that way. You're getting the whole thing. How would they produce something? Would you have to have 6 cameras to get a separate
Yes.
reels of film to get those 6 things interrelated into a seamless web? Could
Yes.
that be done? Would you have a thing with 6 cameras that are set on a platform? How
Yes.
would it be done to where we could be doing things within the Earth, history, the thing they did like Mendelbrot the other day on social,
Well, when
where
you,
is this going in terms of video display?
whether you're in the real world or in the virtual computer graphic world, the metaphor is the same. I am looking in front of me and I see all of you, and I know that there's a wall behind my head.
Right.
But if I was to shoot this make a spherical movie I'd have to have a camera looking forward, behind, all around. Maybe I take two fisheye lenses and, you know, I kind of create a spherical capturing of the world around me. In a similar fashion, you can do that in a computer graphic world because you set up a world. You create, it's a digital world, but you say, you know, in your computer graphics, you say, here's the floor, and there's the building, and here's the little dancing robot or something. I mean, so you create an understanding in the computer, a scene where it understands a sort of world, and that you could move a camera through it, or you could move 6 cameras through it. We actually produce our movies with essentially 1 camera per projector. We use 6 projectors to cover our dome, and so we actually create a 6-channel output. And to view it on the dome, we then just play those 6 movies basically through each, you know, synchronized through each projector. And so you see the world around you. But
The Big Bang,
yeah.
I read somewhere that there may have been an infinite number of Big Bangs.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we talk about.
Where did that come from?
Well,
What was there before the Big Bang? You know, and
that's a good question.
so,
We don't know.
so there's been some speculation that there could have been that the universe is an infinite number of Big Bangs.
Well, again, I feel unqualified to talk about the physics because I'm not a physicist. But what's curious is what's come up, the idea of this multiverse and so forth, that we begin to analyze what we can see of this universe, and as we begin to fill up our visible portion of the universe, as we can see, we plotted here tonight and you experienced, some physicists begin to feel that, well, maybe this is just one of many different universes. And it's funny that we can talk about the universe and the astronomers will say things like, it may well be infinite, but it had a beginning. I mean, it's kind of like...
Why did it have to have a beginning?
Because we see it expanding and cooling, and we see the afterglow of it. So we actually see that it did have this beginning. Now, it had a beginning. So,
That's a little bit like saying that you had a snowstorm,
right.
so we're never going to have another one.
You are.
I am not an astronomer. I wanted to become an astrophysicist, and I stopped short of that goal, and so I do not have a PhD in astronomy or astrophysics.
We'll forgive
Do you
you.
have a title that you call yourself with, in relation to this work?
Well, I am a director in a film sense. I'm a director in a film sense because we make movies. I was awarded a PhD, an honorary PhD, for this realm of what we do, which is to essentially data visualize the astrophysics and the astronomy. So
I'm certain you've thought as deeply about these issues and problems as somebody with a PhD in this field.
well,
You're qualified.
thanks.
I've no doubt.
Thank you.
Roger, by the way, is this software
Well-
commercially available by any chance?
Thank you. Not yet. We have a version that's on haydenplanetarium.org. And it's called Party View for Particle Viewer, P-A-R-T-I, Party View. And this software is called UniView, or Universe Viewer. It was developed by my students under my guidance, under my direction. I wanted this or that. I'm not a software engineer. So they developed the software, and then they formed a company in Sweden. And they now distribute with Zeiss and with Global Immersion, which is a video projection company outfitting domes all around the world. of course, Zeiss, the great Zeiss, well known for planetariums. They invented the planetarium in the mid-1920s. So the software, of course, they're a company, so they charge for it. But what they really have an agreement with us to produce, but they have not yet, is a free version, and I'm pushing them on this to distribute freely to schools, so that in a school sense, they would not have support because they're getting a free version. But
it would be called UniView.
It's called UniView. For Universe Viewer. But I feel that the job is incomplete until we have a free version for teachers.
Absolutely.
And that it does require, as that MacBook Pro has, a graphics card. It also requires Windows. They're European, so they tend to work with Windows. With those two requirements of having a PC running Windows, I have a Windows boot on this Mac, and it has an NVIDIA graphics card. With those requirements, it works, and it works pretty good, as you saw tonight. You saw it kind of slow down when I brought the satellites on. It was kind of dying, but.
And you said something like, if you were on the internet, it would be kind of live or something?
Yes. What I mean by that is that the internet allows navigation to be shared between sites that are all running the program, and we log into a server that allows us to synchronize together. So that server basically takes everybody as monitoring. One person has control, so one person has the talking stick, and we're all on Skype, and we do a Skype conference call. And we were filmed for this just last Thursday. We had a film crew from Argentina come through, and they filmed me. They selected me for a program that Time Warner is doing about saving the world. I kind of roll my eyes with this title because it's like, yeah, right. But I mention it because I think it was a tremendous opportunity to show this internet link-up capability. So from the dome, I went in at 6 a.m. and we had Ghana in Africa, we had Vienna and Stockholm in Europe, we had Medellin in Colombia in South America, and we had my friend Joel, who would have joined us tonight, from Minneapolis. He also had a tribal elder with him, Jim, who gave an invocation to the ceremony with a Native American song. And that they filmed this, and they were able to see that we each showed each other's part of the world. And then I gave control to this one or that one to fly us out and fly us here or there into the universe atlas.
How did you say you could get a hold of the Google software of the Earth?
Well, Google Earth is free. It's a free download.
Right, that's right.
Mm-hmm. And I think they've done a tremendous service to the world in doing that.
But that's not the same as when you were able to go up.
Well, the maps that I'm showing are from NASA, and they're called Blue Marble. NASA created a data set called Blue Marble. Version 1 was just essentially after collecting all these, a satellite continuous image, essentially. They put these two satellites, Aqua and Terra, they're called. These are our two Earth observing system satellites. These are a platform that have all these different instruments on. But there's one called the Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectrometer, and it has many different wavelengths. 3 of those wavelengths are standard red, green, and blue filters like you have in any video camera or any digital camera. And that's what creates that image that I was flying over. Now, if you can look at those images, thanks, and average over, thanks, over like a month or so, you can kind of get rid of the clouds. And what they've created, version 1 was just a cloudless Earth. Version 2, they came back with a monthly average of like, for each month. And so that's the one where you can actually watch, you can see the vegetation go up and down. You see these sort of monthly changes on the Earth, as you would expect to see below the clouds, if you could get rid of the clouds. There's a page you can find, which is just NASA's Blue Marble. The site that a colleague of mine at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory had up, he had to just take down because NASA couldn't continue the funding of. That's where you could actually, from Google Earth, you could read his maps. And the reason I say that is superior to wanting to just go straight to the Blue Marble site is the Blue Marble site can give you different resolutions. You might download the whole globe, but at least in Google Earth, when you went to it, it would know to give you more resolution if you got closer. The same way this does. That's a process where if you get close to the globe, it says, oh, wait a minute, I'm only seeing Yemen now. Give me the high resolution of Yemen. So it's divided the map up. It's a process called clip mapping. And so Google had that until, well, there was a resource that Google Earth could read, but that's no longer online. So I'm not sure when, we're in discussion with San Diego State University. They may supply that data again.
Yeah, it's interesting because of what you were talking about earlier. This past week, and I went to a food culture reading, and there were all these open source type people who all got together, and that seems to be their real interest, to have these things available to universities, to have these things available to various people, because it's the culture of the world, and they want it.
Also, NASA has always put things out there for the whole world for free, which is tremendous.
Just to go back to what you were saying about, I think you meant the physics aspect of it all. I mean, I'm like basement when it comes to science. Well, I do remember when I was in St. Thomas the Apostle in 6th grade, Brother Vincent always wrote across the board the idea that you have to have something in order to get something. In other words, matter does not just spring from itself. So if we're talking about the Big Bang, then my question, and I don't mean to get theological about it, but I guess it does kind of touch that area. What was before the Big Bang? And what caused the Big Bang? Did the Big Bang just decide one day to blow up? Or did some power, some force make it blow? In other words, somebody had to create this mess or start this mess.
Right.
Well, one answer, this has been a very significant experience for me. What caused the Big Bang? Well, we mentioned earlier that there's some theorists who said the Big Bang was infinite. There have been an infinite number of Big Bangs. What caused the Big Bang? Infinity. Get your mind around that. Infinity. If there is an infinity, everything's going to happen. Forever.
Well, what created those set of circumstances to begin the infinity?
Infinity
It's a good question.
I would ask,
is wide open.
is the
Everything's going to
infinity
happen in
conscious?
infinity.
Is the infinity conscious? That's what I would ask.
Pardon?
Is the infinity conscious?
Earlier, I had another revelation.
Great.
We might want you to come speak to
intelligent
Columbia or
design,
speak to about how to
this
reach
is
you.
too
Okay,
big for
thanks.
any intelligence. It's too big.
It's really, it's good questions. But
Nothing has started.
we don't know. We don't know.
Infinity,
We don't know.
Anything's possible. Everything's possible.
I mean,
It could-
matter,
We're talking about something that never
rock,
started and never ends.
you know,
What's going to go on? in it?
biology of it all.
What's going to go on?
What's going to happen? in
I mean, I
something
know
that
the
never-
biological
It
aspect
always was and never will end.
came in later, you know, after the planets formed and what have
It
you.
just makes me think that
But something or
an original
someone
God
had to kick
they
this
do
off,
not,
There's an infinity,
you know.
no.
and anything
Well,
can
that's,
happen randomly.
this is why astronomers didn't like the idea of a Big Bang.
I'm telling you what to think. That there is some kind of God
That's exactly, that was exactly the point.
Because they felt it was getting
predates
into
and
a
underlies and
theological
overlies
concept.
and completely
Absolutely.
exists.
That's exactly what they
As well
thought
as
was,
with everything that's
it was
been
like-
created from the Big Bang and
they didn't like it at all.
whatever it was, the
But
Big
that's
Bang
not being
or the
scientific.
infinity of
You
Big
have to
Bang.
follow the evidence where it leads, right?
Too big for any
Absolutely.
intelligence, even God's. I've never-
They didn't like it, but they had to follow it.
Why would you think so?
Because take a look at what we saw.
How do you handle astrology?
We're talking about a
They say,
trillion,
oh, give me a break, I
a
don't want to get it.
trillion
Kind of thing. What do you think?
Well,
galaxies with a
a
trillion
lot of
stars.
astronomers are like that.
Think about that.
Um,
View of a human.
The
A
only,
human
no, I'm not
consciousness,
thinking about
yours, and
A friend of
mine.
mine
the only,
How could we
makes charts.
not speak from
Um,
our own,
I'm impressed that
our own
learn something
intelligence?
about,
he goes from, you know, in his books and all this, that
something about anthropomorphism.
he actually plots out the solar system.
We've learned something about anthropomorphism.
He creates a picture
Not to be trusted, our own.
that's an accurate depiction of, like, I could
But
set
that
the
matters, so
planet,
did your point of view also.
the planets where they are and all that.
Not
So he
my
actually
view.
draws out a diagram
Don't
that's
trust my point of view,
accurate.
and I don't trust the point of view.
Beyond that is an interpretive aspect.
I do
It's not
know
a
And that has to do with,
going with your theory or your
the idea of infinity.
and me too. Why should you trust mine?
in such a configuration, there are certain characteristics.
The only thing that can explain
And
this
that,
to me, from my point of view.
is that so or is that not? And you know, that goes beyond my field. And so I don't want to totally say, oh, that's bullshit.
Trying to understand.
And again, it's something I don't, it's out of my realm.
Well, I got something for you, brother. Hey, listen to this, I got a big one.
Yeah, me too.
Actually,
Wow.
I have an answer. I was just setting you up. Ready for this? Wait, take turns a little bit. I got a thing going here.
Oh, okay.
I wrote a letter on 1/11/11. You know that number? I wrote to the president of Caltech, announcing in the tradition of Copernicus that I figured out that human nature revolves around the sun, and that what we got to do is rescue birthday from astrology. That birthday is the phase angle of the annual solar sign cycle of energy transfer. And humans actually have evolved to respond to that phase with systematic differences in neurological integration as nature's way of dealing with the problem of networking. That there are so many networking solutions that she wanted an extra dimension of variety beyond just genetics for how to hook up the brain. So most animals have just one time a year they're born. Humans are this idea of the female ready to get laid throughout the span of the whole year. And therefore birthday is a strong force, just like the sun is kind of big. And astrology we can thank for accumulating observations all these years, but at this point it's obsolete. And that as far as the planets go, if you want to do better than the sun sign or birthday alone, I would say the birthdays of the parents is a hot variable that astrology hasn't tuned in on.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, I would go with that.
Do you believe that Ronald Reagan is the one that screwed up the space program and got us off track? Since you hang out with NASA people, I think I'd ask that question.
Well, you know, Reagan said space station and all this. I've been a big advocate for going to Mars.
Yeah.
And I want to stand on Mars, whether I do it virtually or what have you. I'm trying to recreate some of that right now, but that's the next internship I'm working with. But that aside,
I enjoyed this so much.
thank you.
Do you have a card or something?
Yeah, I do actually. I want to give you.
Me too, me too.
Thank you very, very much.
Oh, please,
Very
please.
meaningful thing to me.
Thank you.
I've come to a conclusion that the great power in the universe is infinity in all of its aspects.
Oh, that's a pretty big one. Here, let me grab it.
Okay, great.
Huh? I will. There should be an infinity somewhere. Never mind God. Okay, I'll come see your thing at the
Oh, please do.
planetarium.
Please do. Thank you.
I have a little clip like that too. They're perfect, aren't they?
Yeah.
Good, really good.
Thanks. And thanks for your attention. And I know I went on a long time.
No, I could go on. You could go on for just ever. It's just good to go on. It's good. It's hard to rip myself away.
I appreciate it.
One more time, Carl.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
No, say one more. Well, okay. One more time, Carl.
Uh-huh.
How do we get to where, that's a star field and all of that, how do we get to where they're going to have production of, like, not a little sliver like this of things, and not even just an iMac, but planetarium things about Earth, even feature film. And how would they do that? What is it that's required? Would you have to have a stand with a camera going that way? 5 cameras going like this, and one we stick up to the sky? How would they put it
Oh,
together?
you shoot with a fisheye.
Well, no, I don't understand. Fisheye is one that goes out to the side.
Yeah.
And
Well,
everything.
it's a round circle, but that's how we do it.
Fisheye.
I'll show you with the
But if
fisheye.
you got a fisheye, okay, do show. If you could show it, I would really be interested. Always existed. I mean, I know a fisheye
Harold?
lens,
Okay, look. Now look, I set this up just for you tonight.
Okay, turn off the light, will you? He's gonna talk about a fisheye. Oh. Show us that. Would somebody turn off that light
What
over
do you use
there?
as a control to move around? Just the mouse?
Oh, a mouse, yeah.
Only the mouse.
Good, show what a fisheye is.
Okay, right, okay, Harold, you ready? Okay, no, I'm not projecting it.
You're not projecting.
Well, I could.
Yes.
All right, okay.
Do. Because how is it?
Okay.
We're a video. We're filmmakers. We make films of Godfather in the backseat of a car. We make films. How are we going to translate film
I need something to drink.
planetarium?
Oh, shit.
What's required?
Whoa.
What's the economics?
I would love some Coca-Cola. Thanks. Yes. With ice, thanks. I'm gonna die.
Can I get
Hey.
some cards also?
Sure.
My son was supposed to come down, but he has to be up very early.
Understand. Oh. Okay.
So you're going to demonstrate, Carter, a fisheye. And that's a lens. Because I've used fisheye lens. And look, Carter, I take a fisheye lens and I point it there. And then it comes out and it shows that.
Can we move the chair?
Sure, just move the chair. Would you move the chair out of the way?
Carter, there's cream soda and there's Sprite.
Oh, I'll take
There's water.
I'll take Sprite.
Sprite.
Yeah, thanks. Okay.
So
Okay.
So this I really want to understand. How are we going to transit between filmmaking and planetarium filmmaking?
With a fisheye
For
lens.
the Earth, for the thing, animals and people walking around.
With a fisheye lens.
Okay, you're going to demonstrate that
Yes.
here, fisheye lens?
Yeah.
Try to get not in the way of the camera.
Okay,
We'll record
sorry.
it.
Okay. Up here, I go to Omni. There it is. It's a fisheye lens. And then I have to re-aim things, but this is what you would see on the planetarium dome.
Yeah, you keep saying planetarium. This is a fisheye lens from out in space. You're looking at that. That's the image. You got everything.
Yes, and if you laid down on your back in the planetarium, this is what you'd see.
Yeah, in the planetarium. What I'm saying is, how does a filmmaker make fair
With a
that is going to be up on a screen?
With a fisheye lens.
Well, with this, okay.
Yeah, and so
Well, explain it to me in simple terms. Okay, this you're looking at from space. So this is one image.
No, you
but
just.
What this is the complete
Thank you.
image of what you're going to deal with.
Oh my God. Thanks. Okay. Thanks.
But this is what you're going
Great.
to deal with. But if you're making a movie on the Serengeti Plain and you want to show the leopards and you want to have it as something that could be displayed on a planetarium in surround and everything, how would that be done?
Well, you film it. You film it with a fisheye lens,
But you, okay.
and the image comes out flat like this. But
You haven't. But if I may, if you're out there and the lion's out there and you're doing the lion, behind you there's an elephant. You're not getting the elephant.
Well, if
That's what I'm saying. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you're walking
if
through
if the lens is pointed toward the zenith of the sky,
Okay.
then you will get the lion on one side and the elephant on the other.
Okay, so you would have a film, a thing here, this
Mm-hmm.
fisheye, and it would go over to the horizon, all of 360 degrees?
Yeah.
And that would be contained in one image? That would be one fisheye
360
image like this.
surround by
Yeah.
180. 360 by 180. That's what a fisheye lens is, and that's a definition of a dome.
Okay.
So in a planetarium.
And then,
And I have shot in fisheye at Angkor Wat
Yeah.
and at the
do you have
Acropolis.
it on there?
I have images, fisheye. I shot Reed Stowe's boat in a fisheye lens. But yeah, you've seen fisheyes, I think.
Well, okay, so you're a filmmaker and you lie down on the ground and you point it up in the air.
Yes,
And
or
that
or
you
you
take a
or
film of
for a
that.
lot of domes are tilted now, so you can tilt it at what the tilt of the dome, say 30 degrees. Mm-hmm. So you would aim it up first at well, it's essentially this is what it looks like, and you can see from the motion now as I go around that things are distorting like the orbit lines there and everything, because it really wants to be projected into a dome. And but with this, we typically run it in this mode, as you see here, for domes, for small domes with a fisheye lens, and it maps out properly on a dome.
Well, if you don't have anything on here that demonstrates something on Earth, like
Well,
a landscape.
No,
or
I
something-
can come down to Earth. One
Yeah,
sec.
could you? I mean, just I'd appreciate it if you can.
Let me
Because-
let me put this down.
Yeah, okay. I'm thinking the filmmaker sits and has a camera looking up over the top, and like that, and it's shooting everything
Okay,
all around
all right,
on
okay.
360 degrees,
Hold on.
which would give you.
Okay.
It sounds maybe like the fisheye lens is the thing that's needed in order to make film, or
Yes.
something that can be translated into.
Yeah,
a
because
show
but
in a
people.
planetarium.
What I'm saying is
Yeah.
that people have already done that, and so now when I come in, now the ground is in front of me. I have to tip over, like this. Watch. I'm gonna come in closer. I'm coming on down. If I come around enough, I'm gonna drop down through the atmosphere. We'll see the atmosphere come up around me.
Yeah.
Like this. See?
Right.
And now I'm effectively now in a tilted dome. This is the kind of image I want. But if I really want to, yeah, is that.
Okay, baby. Yeah.
Wonderful, man.
Oh, thanks. Okay, take care. Thanks a lot.
But Carter, with all due respect, this is not the Serengeti plain with leopards and elephants.
It is. What
Well,
I'm
no,
saying.
it's not. It's from the universe. You're still coming. You know.
Well, Harold.
Maybe I'm just stupid.
Harold. We're on the ground, and this is a dome. And so I tried to get it completely even, and I'm failing in that. But anyway, my point is that if I'm standing in the dome now, looking around, I've got an elephant here, and I've got on the other side the
Do you
tiger.
have something with that kind of thing that's been done,
I
like an
just-
elephant, or something on the ground, something in the earth?
What you're looking for is a fisheye image, but what I'm trying to tell you is what you're seeing here is flat. But if this image is projected into a dome, it's surrounding. That's why the ground looks bent here. It's not going to look bent in a dome. It's going to look like a flat line and just tilted. But this is the projection into a fisheye lens.
I'm really confused. I can't understand.
Yeah, I
So all
think
you have to do is
you're
have
having
all you
trouble
have to do is
visualizing.
have a 35 millimeter film sticking up in the air, and then make with a fish lens.
Yeah,
and
let
then
me
you've
see.
got the
Let
data for
me see if I
How
have
are we
it.
going to make feature films?
Let me see if I have it.
Musicals.
Harold, stop. Let me just see if I have something.
You have to have a dome.
Well, a dome with a projection system that is surrounding, and the way we walk through the world. And you get a little sliver, like there's my television. There's a little sliver like this. How are you going to get it to where it's like the way you walk through the world in a dome? Of like, yeah, Humphrey Bogart, Cuthbert Hepburn, you know, movies, things, educational stuff that is Earth, not the databases from space.
Well, here's an example of a fisheye lens. That's a picture I took of Arthur C. Clarke, and that's me. But that's in his home.
Okay, that's beautiful. Okay, that's a fisheye lens thing. You took that.
Yeah. Now that projected into the dome.
Yeah.
It reconstructs his house. Sorry, that's the Cambodians.
So if you took that and put it up on a dome, it would be like this would be surrounding 300 around.
Yes.
Like that.
That's right.
And from that lens. So if you took a picture of the Serengeti plain leopard.
Yes, I mean they'd be on one side, and you're like I'm on one side of the table, and Arthur's on the other. You can see right there.
Yeah, right. And then that'll break down with that 6 array of display.
Yes, what we do is we take a fisheye image like this as input.
Yeah.
And what happens in the software is it gets sliced. We call it slicing.
Yeah.
And it will cut it up into the 6 independent images that are necessary for the 6 independent projectors.
Okay, now for this scene, you had the camera.
Yeah.
This is a still camera, a still picture,
Mm-hmm.
and you had it aimed at the ceiling.
Yeah. And Arthur knew what I was doing. And so he smiled there.
And that's all you would need in order to get...
There's one thing I want to say. I got to run. Harold, I'm sorry. I've been calling you. One thing I want to say about the Big Bang, infinite number of Big Bangs, and a lot of astronomers or physicists
They're trying to figure it out.
Trying to figure it out, and they're saying, well, you know, we know that we're going toward cooling and maybe the ultimate freeze.
Right.
Therefore, those people argue that that idea may be wrong of an infinite number of Big Bang. It would be like saying the play Hamlet by Shakespeare. You see the final act, the Hamlet disappears. Nobody ever sees him again. No, I'm sorry. The next Sunday, they're going to run Hamlet again. Take care.
Take care. That's great.
So you could do that in film. I mean, this is a still picture. You could make that in a film by aiming this fisheye lens at the ceiling or at the sky.
Oh, yeah.
And have a film that you make that way. One cut, one film. And then that could be broken down within the process of this 5 and 1.
That's
into a display on
we did that. In fact we filmed the sunrise and the sunset in Central Park for our current show, Journey to the Stars. That's so. But people have been filming in fisheye Actually, the first dome that ever showed before OmniMax was in 1964. It was called the Atmospherium in Reno, Nevada. And what they did was they made time-lapse 35mm fisheye movies of all sorts of cloud formations and things like this. And so that was most likely the first, I think.
Okay, if you're doing that with the fisheye, you always have the camera sticking up, pointing up in the air in order to get the
horizon, yeah.
To get the
Yeah,
horizon.
sure.
You have to do that in order to do it. And then you can make it, they'd have to have ways.
Arthur C. Clarke.
Oh, gosh, 2001, is that in Sri Lanka?
So
It is?
So
Did you meet him?
That's me up top.
we used to have fisheye lenses we would use. They were very simple.
Oh, what
fisheye
a privilege
lenses.
that must have
It
been.
was.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, she's been to that very house. She's been there.
Can be,
This is
outside.
needed.
No, it's outside of.
So you could just film something, and you're going through the Serengeti plain, and the camera's always pointing up.
Yeah.
Why did I think you lived in the mountains?
And you have to
You
have
had
that.
a house
There's
in
no way to.
You had a house in Trincomalee.
Okay, that's
Which is near the Freedom
and
Mountain
it renders
Mountains.
well. I mean, with that
War
kind of a lens, it doesn't get deteriorated. That looks great. Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
And you could make it film as easily as you can with a still camera, still shot.
Very recently.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have people done it? Are they doing it with life processes on the Earth? I mean, are there people
Yeah.
making those
Well,
kind of
okay.
shows that show in the planetarium?
What I was trying
Because
to
not very many people are interested in the universe.
What I said earlier was that OmniMax formed around the same time as IMAX.
Yeah.
And IMAX ended up buying them out because they didn't want the competition. But OmniMax was, and there were several movies that were made filming with a fisheye, with the idea of projecting on a dome to give you immersive filmmaking. And that was usurped by IMAX buying them out again, so that they just had more screens. And
So let's say it's
so
Casablanca, movie Casablanca, and they're going to get on the airplane and fly off to fight the fascists and that. The lens that would be filming that would be pointing up in the air. You'd have nothing but sky for the most part.
Well, it depends on, it depends on what you want to do. In this case, you can see that I don't have the lens aimed exactly up. I wanted to get Arthur.
Yeah.
So I got a bit of his desk.
Right.
You can see that you can see his navel actually, because his shirt sort of sticking out.
Yeah, right.
And then I didn't necessarily want to get myself, but I did get me.
But if you're out in an environment or something, what's going to be up there at the middle of the thing is going to be sky.
Yes.
It's going to be all sky.
Yes.
And will it render the things that are coming out on the edge of that?
But Harold, if you're standing in the room of the planetarium, and you're looking up and there's a dome over your head, and it's supposed to replicate what it is walking around the Serengeti plain.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Or whatever's on the set.
That's what.
But even on the set, then the set that could be a cathedral or something that happens to be up in the air.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all you really need in order to gain image for film that could be shown in a planetarium is a fisheye lens.
Yeah. Yes. Let me.
That's really interesting.
Let me see if I can.
Do you think it's going that way? Is film going to go that way?
Well, the modern planetarium has allowed that transition to finally occur. We finally can have OmniMax. We finally have all these domes that are digital and they need content, and so the idea of going out and filming is finally happening now.
There's going to be big sale of fisheye lenses for
Now, see,
existing cameras, video cameras.
yes,
and film
and
cameras.
yes.
People have been using fisheye lenses forever. I mean, that's not anything
Yeah.
new.
Well,
People use them all the time.
no, it's usually mostly for some sort of a funny film video or music
No,
video or
it's-
They
something.
use them for all kinds of things.
Yeah. So this is what.
In movies?
Here, let me
How
show
many
you.
movies have you seen that are in fisheye?
All of them.
No, they're
In
not.
my house, they are.
Well, you are.
Let me show you. I'm gonna shut down to I'll just do a restart here
Yeah,
because I
sure,
do have
listen.
some. I have fisheye movies on the other side of my computer, on my Mac side. So
Is there a future for fish-eyed movies? Or planetarium-based movies? Or educational fare, other than space? That's what I'm getting at.
Okay. Now, of course, there is. And the
educational implications are staggering.
So, what I did in Sweden the beginning of last year was to make the inaugural movie for a dome visualization theater that is not a planetarium. One of the things they do in there, well, first of all, it's stereo capable, so you can go in and wear glasses, and so you have a stereo surround dome. And they do radiology scans of human patients, things like this, CAT scans and stuff. And so you can take the results of this and actually go inside the human body. And so there's an application that's not the stars. And they also have a three-dimensional depiction of air traffic control.
Wow.
And which was the Swedish government was testing. And they have all sorts of things. So what my job was, in going over there, was to make the first movie. Now, the astronomical content was a kind of no-brainer because that's what we had been doing. But the idea that I wanted to pursue was a remake of the Powers of 10 film.
Oh, I love it, I've got it on my site.
And so I have it here in fisheye.
Oh, okay, I'd love to see that. You come into Florida, the one that comes into Florida?
No, that was the original one. So, okay, wait a minute.
Well, that's holiday time somewhere. Yeah, it's great.
Hold on.
Mint julep and what?
Well, that's it.
Yeah,
hold on.
That thing is fantastic, Carter. Just
Thanks.
gorgeous.
Detect displays. Let me do this. Oh, that's at the Blue Room at the Hotel Sacher in Vienna. Yeah, so here, let me turn mirroring on.
They have the best pastries too. They have great,
Sacher Torte. Okay.
Harold Channer, I see. What is that?
Okay, so this, yeah.
What have you got, Harold? You got a secret file on Harold?
Yes.
You got it.